How does the author use direct quotes from the Crafts book to help the reader understand the tone of this text? In this lesson, you will learn to identify the tone of a text by examining the author's use of direct quotes. Let's review. We've been reading the text The Great Escape from Slavery of Ellen and William Craft by Marion Smith Holmes. It's an informational text that tells the story of William and Ellen Craft and the way in which they escaped from slavery. The article is based on an information from the book Running 1,000 Miles for Freedom that was written by the Crafts themselves. She uses direct quotes from the Crafts book throughout the article. These are the quotes we'll be examining in order to identify the tone of the text. Now, the quotes will be easy to identify by looking for quotation marks around phrases and sentences. This will indicate that this is a direct quote right from the Crafts book. Since tone of a text is easily confused with the mood of a text, let's review the difference. Tone refers to the author's emotions or attitudes. The author uses certain words or phrases to try to convey that emotion to the readers. Mood is the way the author's words make us, the reader, feel. So, to keep mood and tone straight, think about tone as the author putting emotion into the text, and mood is the reader receiving the emotion from the text. To find out how the author uses direct quotes from the Crafts book, we'll use these 3 steps. First, we'll skim the text for direct quotes. Next, we'll notice word choice and context. And last, we'll ask, how did this contribute to the tone of the text? So here's the question. Our first step is to skim the text and locate the direct quotes. So let's zoom in on the quote at the top of page 2. The mere thought, William later wrote, of his wife's distress filled her soul with horror. Step 2 is to notice the context and word choice. It's important to think about the context by rereading the sentences around the quote. The quote alone doesn't tell us what William is talking about. Looking back to the paragraph, I see that he's referring to having children. Let's look at the words William chose. Wow, mere thought, soul, and horror. This quote's full of strong words. So how does this quote contribute to the tone of the text? We could have said Ellen was afraid to have children, but this choice of words really makes me get a feeling of how strongly Ellen felt about having children. Just thinking about it fills her soul with horror. I can just feel Ellen's agony. Hearing these strong words right from William was a really effective way for the author to convey the degree of fear and horror and agony felt by the Crafts. As I skim down the page, I see another direct quote in paragraph 3 that I'll zoom in on. A desperate leap for liberty. Well, I need to consider the context to know exactly what he's referring to. Oh, I see. This is the moment when they're getting Ellen into disguise. They must be getting ready to leave for their journey. So I notice these emotion-packed words, desperate leap for liberty. So how does this contribute to the tone of the text? Well, hearing William's description of starting out on the journey, it gives me a mental picture of the two of them jumping off into the unknown. I think the author wanted me to feel their desperation. She really made me feel the suspense with the anticipation of them possibly getting caught. The next quote is in the last paragraph of page 3. We felt as though we had come into deep waters and were about being overwhelmed, William recounted in the book, and returned to the dark and horrible pit of misery. So let's look at where they are in their journey at this point. Baltimore, the last major stop before Pennsylvania, a free state, had a particularly vigilant border patrol. Ellen and William were again detained, asked to leave the train and report to the authorities for verification of ownership. "We shan't let you go," an officer said with finality. So they'd made it all the way to the last stop before freedom, and now they're told to get off the train. Let's take a look at William's words describing how they felt at this moment. Well, the words the deep waters and being overwhelmed, they really stand out to me. So how does this contribute to the text, tone of the text? Well, this time his words are giving me a mental picture of him drowning, feeling helpless and hopeless, fighting for his life. And then this last part where he says they thought they were going to be returned to the dark and horrible pit of misery, that really expresses his feelings on the conditions of his life in slavery. If the author hadn't used this quote, I don't think I would have understood the depth of the Crafts' sense of dread for going back to their masters. In the very next paragraph, I see a quote by Ellen. As they left the station, Ellen burst into tears, crying out, "Thank God, William, we're safe." Well, I think I know the context here, since Ellen's saying they're safe. Yes, this is the place where they finally arrived in Philadelphia, freedom. Let's look at the word choice in this quote and see how it contributes to the tone of the text. Well, when I read the phrase burst into tears, I really get a sense of Ellen just letting go of all the pent-up fear she'd been holding in for the entire journey. What a sense of relief and probably disbelief. I like the way the author uses the words crying out instead of said. I could just hear Ellen shouting for joy, but crying at the same time. So, by using this quote, the author conveyed Ellen's outpouring of emotions. Things like relief, the disbelief, and the joy. Well, let's get ready to answer a question. Remember, the quotes are directly from the book that the Crafts wrote, so we're hearing a very personal, first-hand account of these moments. The author told us the context first, and then let us hear William's own emotion-filled words describing their thoughts and feelings. These words and context helped us to understand exactly what they were feeling. Things like the anticipation, hopeless, agony, desperation, suspense, dread, joy, helplessness, relief, disbelief, fear, horror. All of the emotions that the Crafts felt, the author put right into the book for us to feel as well. So, how does the author use direct quotes from the Crafts book to help the reader understand the tone of this text? Well, I think we're ready to answer. By using direct quotes from the Crafts book, the author is able to put the many emotions the Crafts felt into the article. The author gives us the context and then uses William's own heartfelt words to express the depth of their fear, horror, agony, relief, and joy. Through William's words, we're able to visualize and feel that emotion as we read. These are the steps we followed. First, we skimmed the text for direct quotes. Second, we noticed the context and word choice. And last, we asked, how did this contribute to the tone of the text? In this lesson, you have learned to identify the tone of a text by examining the author's use of direct quotes.